Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the festival director and program director of Something Wicked Film Festival events. And welcome to this week's program. Now, we are doing something special in the month of February, which was we are highlighting African American themed films for Black History Month, and we are doing a special highlights on Valentine's Day films, which is at the heart of our conversation this week. We will be dissecting the movie My Bloody Valentine from 1981, not the remake. We'll have to say that for next Valentine's. But this year, we're going to hit the original My Bloody Valentine. And to talk with me on this film is our resident, I guess, film enthusiast, horror filmmaker extraordinaire, and comedy extraordinaire by all means. Dave Watkins. This is a guy who's done so much stuff in the last 20 years, it's hard to keep up, but he is an independent filmmaker by blood, and you can always watch whatever he's done on YouTube and other social media channels. He is a resident Georgia filmmaker who has done a lot of stuff, and he's joining me for this week's program to talk about My Bloody Valentine.
Right on. Yeah.
I want to thank you, Dave, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, just to get us a little bit started, can you tell everyone a little bit about your impression on this film, whether it be in terms of story, direction, all that, just to give people an idea of the first time that you saw this film and how
Okay.
it, improved upon you.
Right. Yeah. So I've got with this particular movie, I've got kind of a layer of how my appreciation grew for it over time. But it's a slasher movie that takes place on Valentine's Day, and it was made during it was 1981 when right after Friday the 13th and Halloween really kind of kick-started the slasher genre. So it was one of those that and it's a Canadian slasher movie. The very first time I saw part of it, I didn't watch the whole thing. It was on like regular TV, and I was pretty young at the time. But it's look when I watched it, the video quality it didn't look very good. It kind of looked dated. Um, but so I didn't rewatch the whole thing, and I maybe watched maybe like 20 minutes of it. I remember the part I saw, and at the time it bugged me was the kind of soothsayer guy who's trying to warn everybody not to do it, like the Ralph character in Friday the 13th, but it's a different older guy. But and then he gets killed, but I was like, some reason I was like thinking that guy needed to live longer, but I completely disagree with that now. But but I don't know. So that was the first time, and then the next time I watched it, actually the next time I watched the remake first. So, but what's interesting about the remake and the movie in general, it's a slasher that you think that it's about an escaped miner who's killing people in a small town on Valentine's Day, but as it turns out, the escaped miner is dead. The guy already, and one of the characters is the killer. So it kind of becomes a whodunit, and it kind of switches on you as you're watching. I think, and because it doesn't really let you know that the miner's dead until almost the end of it. The weird thing about the remake and this one is the killer is a different person. It's like what I'm saying. So it was like I saw the remake first, and then when I saw this one for the first time on it was on Amazon Prime like a few years back, and it was the cut version. It was cool that it was a different character because I didn't want the character who in the remake to be the killer, which I didn't want him to be the killer in the original in the remake. But I was like, it was cool that it was a different one. But so the impression of that was I liked it, and I got some good things to say about it. But as far as I didn't like the fact that it seemed like it was incomplete. Because it was severely cut for censors, and there was hardly any. The MPAA just cut out like so much stuff. So when I mean, I'm not like it's obvious stuff was missing. You're watching a scene and it's just like what happened, yeah, that sort of thing. But then so Shout Factory has a version out that has the unrated cut, and they did a lot of work. They were actually able to pull. They would go to the original like negatives and pull out most of what was cut by the censors. Some of the scenes are lost completely. They couldn't fix all of them, but they got most of it, and it's such a, like, when you're watching it, it just feels like complete to me. And it's like when you watch the unrated version, I would recommend watching that one. And I think from my that I really like the movie if you watch the unrated version of it.
You know, this is one of the 80s films I did not watch in the 80s at all. I did not watch this one for the first time until right before the remake came out. The remake they advertised as, My Bloody Valentine 3D, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be some cool shit. So I sought out the original. So I did not see this one till much later.
By
Unlike
the way, the 3D stuff was pretty awesome in the theater. When it was like
it was, they got
in the remake, but they did a really good job with the 3D in that movie.
they did. But this film itself, you hit on something I really enjoyed too. The fact that I didn't know who the killer was necessarily, and it was a different person for the remake versus this one. To be honest with you, when I first saw this movie, I didn't think of it as whodunit. I automatically assumed it was Harry Warden. When I rewatched it for our conversation now, I realized how much the filmmakers tried to hide who it was. You Even though he's got you thinking it's Harry Warden, the idea that he's hiding when Axel and the other character TJ are on screen or not on screen and people are getting killed. I thought that was really clever when I rewatched it. It's like, so the idea that the filmmakers are putting together a film that you can enjoy on repeat viewing by trying to figure out the whodunit and figure out some of the inconsistencies is actually much more enjoyable now that I've seen it. I think
They actually did, yeah. I don't know if there is necessarily inconsistency with,
no,
because they always have the actual character. They always have him out of the scene when he's
yes,
supposed to be.
yes.
At the same time, if you think about logistically, how could he go get the minor uniform on, and why would he even bother to change into it? To go kill somebody. But I guess, like, but at the same time, what's his name? The director, George. It was George Makalaka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mahalka.
Yeah. He so he was like doing some I don't know how I don't even know how you would describe this. It is almost like a method director thing where he didn't even let the actors know who the killer was while they were shooting the movie.
Oh,
So,
really? Oh,
yeah. So they he told them that you might be the killer. So he told, like, both of the potential killer characters to act like they could possibly be the killers, but neither one of them knew for sure it was them. You know?
That's why TJ's performance is a little off. Neither one of them are the perfect likable characters. So TJ and Axel are these two guys who are fighting over the same woman, Sarah. One of them, TJ, left for a while, left Sarah in the lurch, and then Sarah hooks up with Axel, and then he comes back. TJ comes back, and it becomes a very odd love triangle between them. But I love the scene where Sarah says, you in the party scene where they're about to fight, that she just told them both to go back off.
Right. Yeah, I really like the way that they handled her character in a way that she just was just overwhelmed with it, and like TJ was assuming she would like be like going right back to him and being and be really happy, and she kind of does, but at the same time she just almost like stick to her stomach over the whole thing, and just wants to almost not even want to have to deal with it, which you can't blame her, at that point.
Yeah, well, it makes her for a much stronger character, especially in the third act when she decides to go down into the mines with all the other characters and not be with either Axel
right, yeah.
or TJ. When I rewatched it, I was like, oh shit, I didn't notice this is the first time I saw it. I was like, she's a little bit of a strong-willed character. And then when her friend goes a little bit after seeing her boyfriend get killed, she goes neurotic. She's slapping the girl, snap out of it.
It's hilarious. She like smacks the shit out of her.
Snap out of it. Shit, we got a killer on the loose. We got live. So
it's like kind of they kind of make her they make her stronger than in a way. So they have at least have a strong woman character in there, so it does help. And you have the other one like losing her mind. Even some of the guys lose their mind too. So I mean that's a natural reaction to what happens. But at least they didn't have all the women like losing their minds, and the guys have to save them. So the guys actually hurt her more than they save her, and
you were absolutely right. I didn't think about that till you just made that comment, because I believe it is John who, after finding his girlfriend, I think it's Sylvia, strung up with a water hose going through her mouth and dead. He gets a little hysterical when he goes back to the party and everyone finds out that what's happened to him. You don't see that very often in horror films, so I think there is an evenness with the way in which more, I guess, realistic reactions to seeing someone that you love die horribly.
Yeah. And it's I think on the director's commentary, the director, he did mention that like he liked the way that there's another actress in the scene who's kind of losing it pretty big too. And he said it's kind of borderline over the top, but because of the younger characters, they're not used to they're not used to trying to calm their emotions in a situation like that it makes sense, and it actually works for the scene.
Right.
I think the cool thing, if you don't have the special effects like with the original cut, and there's a cult following for this movie, even like what really draws people to this movie is the locations. They shot in a real mine, and the town itself looks very authentic. And then the production design on just the Valentine's, the way that they make the whole town look like it exploded into a Valentine's Day celebration, because it's like the first time in 20 years they've been celebrating Valentine's Day. But you've got a lot of that sort of stuff going on, and also the characters are very believable. They all seem like they could be real people, and the way that and even the actors are not, kind of for the most part, don't recognize them from other stuff, and they all seem like they're like in their wardrobe. It looks like it's this type of wardrobe they would wear. It looks lived in, and even the makeup on when they're going out of the mine and they come back up and they got the black suit all over their face. But I think those sort of things.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it more this recent time watching it. I realized just how much I guess they utilized the real locations, because it does look like a real town. It does look like real people actually inhabit this town. It doesn't look so much like a town that was built on a soundstage. The mine location itself is freaking amazing with some of the stuff that they did in that mine. That for some reason I didn't remember from the first time I saw this. And I could say, having seen this when I originally saw this was a long time ago, and then right afterwards I saw the remake. And the remake had a greater impression on me, obviously, because the 3D effects were amazing and people got, people were impaled and killed. But
they had the Tom Atkins and Jensen Ackles in it as well. So.
Yeah. Whereas watching this one, you have a bunch of unknowns in this film, but they make it seem more realistic and more genuine than watching Jason Ackles and Atkins in the film, which I still love the film regardless. I can always have fun watching that movie.
Now there are a few scenes in the mine that were sets. I was listening to the commentary, so there's about, I think there's 3 scenes. The opening scene, when he comes in there there's the 2 miners come in, and one of them ends up being like a lady, and with their, they end up, so that part, for some reason, I guess maybe it was shot afterwards, but that part, and then there's a flashback where the mine explodes. They couldn't shoot that in a real mine because it would actually cause because of methane gas build up, and it would really explode. And then the fight sequence at the end when everything caves in, but and that those are the scenes that weren't in a real mine. But the rest of the stuff, the elevator shaft part too was on a set. But when they climbing up the ladder for but he said a real ladder like that, and really, he said in these mines, and for the production, it was a pain apparently. So they'd have to go in this elevator, and it goes down almost 600 feet, and it would take them almost like 40 minutes to get all the equipment and the crew down there. And at the end of the day, they had to get it all back out. So they would lose like maybe 4 hours of time just getting down there to shoot. And he said there was a methane. If there was a methane buildup, they couldn't shoot down there, and it happened 6 days. So they lost 6 days of that, and the producers had them on a time schedule because they wanted to release it on Valentine's Day for some reason. It was like really important that it got out on Valentine's Day, and so they were on a pretty tight schedule.
But you know what? You just mentioned something that I hadn't noticed until now. That opening scene is the only scene that seems staged and a little out of place.
Yeah.
Because you don't really get the sense if in hindsight, if Axel's the one killing all these people,
Sure.
it's really weird for him to be going down into a mine with another woman. And the woman,
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I didn't think about that till now. I was like, it's cool to open the film with a good killing, but I wonder if in that commentary they mentioned if they added that after the fact because they didn't have a kill at the very beginning of the movie.
Well, they didn't say, yeah, no, they didn't say that in the commentary. He did say that, what did he call it? He said it was a BDSM, which is a bondage, discipline, dominant, submission, role playing. That's what they were doing. And he said, like, at that time, he thought it was very interesting, and he wanted to add that concept. And the director is kind of a funny guy, really. But, yeah, and then I know that's what the whole thing was. I guess it probably was to catch people's attention at the top of it. But yeah, if you look at the way it's explained in the remake, they explain it better because the character is a split personality in that one, which he probably is here too, which would make any of that would make sense. If he's got a split personality, yeah, he could go out and find this other girl, and and then they go down, and for some reason she likes going down into the mine and doing the BDSM stuff. But I mean that would make sense. But it's not, that doesn't, they don't say that in this movie, but it does seem that he does seem like he possibly could not know that he's the killer, just like the actor didn't know he was the killer.
You bring up something that I didn't notice until the very end of the movie, this movie as well, in terms of the split personality in the remake. At the end of this movie, after Axel has been revealed to everyone that he's the killer, and he ends up cutting off of his arm. So if you haven't watched the movie, he does cut off his arm at the end.
And they got a new effect. The uncut version, they have a new effect for that. It looks really, really gruesome when it happens.
But he goes off saying that he and Harry are going to have revenge on the town, as though he does have some type of split personality.
Right. It doesn't, but it doesn't have like the psycho scene
No.
at the end where the doctor explains what happened for 3 minutes. So I don't know.
You're right. I can see the filmmakers hoping that this was going to be financially successful, like Halloween or Friday 13th, so they can make more sequels with a killer miner roaming around.
Right.
So
yeah, surprising they didn't make more sequels, but apparently they did talk about it, and then they just never had the right idea for the sequel.
Oh,
they still, from listening to their interviews, they still kind of mulling it about like the possibility of doing a sequel. I find it very unlikely they'll ever do it, but they still kind of entertain it.
You can't say that in this day and age with remakes, reboots, reimagines, prequels to movies that are older than they ever should be. They could come back and just do a sequel 25, 30 years later and still have, say, the actor who played TJ come back and he's the sheriff of the town or something.
Right. And they actually they have an interview with him and Axel, the actor played Axel, and apparently the actor who played Axel did a lot of I think it was Simpsons. He did like animation on that after this.
Okay.
But yeah, the TJ guy looks completely different. In the interview, he has like a long beard, and it's like he looks completely different. You would not recognize him at all.
Oh wow. So, how do you rate this as a movie in terms of a slasher movie? You think it's a very effective slasher movie?
I would say, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the unrated version of it definitely makes it more of a slasher movie because but it's they've also got. I mean, they do have a lot of the who done it or a lot of build up. I think it's like a really, I mean, really, if you think about any of the other slashers, it has a kind of similar formula, but the director does seem to be trying to intentionally play against some of the tropes, which kind of helps it in some areas. Like he has like a bigger guy who would usually be the comic relief. They have him kind of like the kind of leader of the group,
Yeah,
and they have and then they have another guy who is he's like skinnier guy who's comic relief. So he does seem to be very aware of the tropes and in certain times trying to play against them. But there is and there's also a police detective sort of like there's like a investigation going on where you have a cop, the sheriff of the town, and I do like the way the cops are presented in this movie. They don't play them for comic relief like they do in some of the other ones, which is kind of fun sometimes too. But this the cops are very realistic. The way
yes.
that and there's actually some emotional stuff happens because the cops investigating. He gets the Valentine's Day sent to him. He gets a Valentine's Day heart sent to him, and then he opens it, and there's like the heart from the girl at the beginning, scene that they never they never find her, but it's just like I mean, it's assuming that it's the girl from the beginning, and then but later on, there's like a lady in town who's putting on the Valentine's Day party, and she has a crush on him, and then she sends him a Valentine's Day heart, but then she gets killed before he receives it. But he receives the heart from her, the heart candy, and he thinks it's got another heart in it, and he opens it up, and it's from her. So it's a pretty if you put that together at the time that it's the lady from the beginning of the movie, then it's a pretty deep like kind of scene, and just his reaction to seeing the note from her is it's pretty fantastic.
I agree. I don't remember recognizing any of that the first time I saw the movie. I did this past time I saw it, and I thought this makes these characters much more interesting when you see their relationships between each other and how it unfolds. I actually really enjoyed that aspect of it, and it makes for a much deeper film experience.
Yeah, and what's funny is the apparently the guy playing the sheriff, which I never realized it before the commentary, he's wearing a wig the whole time. Yeah,
Really?
he's yeah, he's wearing a wig. I can't unsee it now, but apparently the director said he showed up at the airport to go pick the guy up, and he's probably one of the at the time he's one of the more well-known actors in the movie. But he showed up, and the guy had really long hair, about halfway down his back. And the guy was like, "Don't worry about it. I got like some of the best wigs in the business."
Oh
And
my god,
apparently he did because I didn't even know it.
I didn't notice either. Oh my god. So you bring up something else that's very interesting about this slasher that's different from a lot of other slashers at the time is that it didn't focus on any of the teens until the last half of the movie. You're seeing these older people get killed, and I'm not going to ask why Axel would kill these people, other than the fact that he might have a deeper relationship or trauma based on these people.
Well,
Uh,
there is a flashback scene in it that
which
kind of yeah. Remember what happens is Harry Warden in the past so he was one of the miners. So I guess what happens in the flashback part is the miners are down in the mine, and there's a methane gas
Mhm.
explosion. All of them are mostly killed except for him. And then apparently the town was up having a Valentine's Day party, and they didn't, they were oblivious to what was going on down in the mine. And Harry Warden, um, he became insane and blamed the people in the Valentine's Day party for his
uh,
the guy's dying. So then he goes and kills Axel's dad, and
yeah.
Axel saw it happen, and for some reason that is what caused him to have that one, deciding to snap and kill. Because the Valentine's Day, because of Valentine's Day, his dad died
Yeah.
and was killed, and then now Valentine's Day hasn't been there for 20 years. now they decide to do it again, and that's what brings that to the surface.
So you just I'm just thinking about this now. You just brought up a point. This is very much like a plot point out of Friday 13th, where Mrs. Voorhees blames the camp counselors for the death of her son.
Right. But I like the idea of the split personality because it just explains it better, And I think it even in this movie, to me, it seems like it almost is there, even though it's not said, but I think it's there to a certain degree.
Well, I think that if you're watching it and you don't realize that, if you're watching it the first time, you might just think that this is all happening and Axel might be the killer because he's just jealous of TJ.
Right.
And which is probably how I saw it originally. It isn't until now that I'm thinking about this, and what you've just said, that he's or Axel's killing these people because they brought back the Valentine's Day dance, and of course the Valentine's Day dance brings back his traumatic memories about his dad being killed by Harry Warden on Valentine's Day, and of course Harry Warden started killing people because they were too busy having a party while he and the other people were down in the fucking mine during the whole mining accident. So
yeah.
It's one of those things that I think in hindsight, you kind of, or hindsight, when you watch it on repeat viewing, you pick up on all the other details. I can guarantee you the first time I saw this film, I was not thinking about any of that or parallels to Friday the 13th. But as we talk about these films for our podcast, we start to delve deeper into these type of films and the way that they play out. Or
yeah. I think like when you're watching a movie too, even if there are like plot points taken from other movies, they mix it up a little bit, but at the same time, while you're watching it, you're not necessarily like immediately noticing them because you're watching the movie and you're hopefully enjoying the movie, depending on what it is. But and then but later on, if you start to think about it more, you do start to see that sort of thing, especially in a slasher movie, you can see where it's taken from. Because you always got to come up with some reason why they're killing somebody. It's kind of cool sometimes when it's just like no reason and killers like in Black Christmas when the killer's just some random guy, It's like it's like it would be like in this where it really was Harry Warden, which you were thinking it is Harry Warden until the end.
Well, that's the great thing. You're all thinking that no one's thinking it's someone else. We're all being told it's Harry Warden. We're all thinking it's Harry Warden. So
yeah. But it's funny, like the actor who plays Axel, Noah Fleck, he doesn't play Harry Ward, the miner, when he's in the costume. Another actor plays him, and their whole time that was, but had he's a stunt performer, and he apparently was I think a dancer or something of that nature. But they had him doing it for one thing, so the other guy didn't have to do it, and it was safer because he's a stunt performer, and so the other actor didn't know that he was the killer,
Yeah.
But a lot of people at conventions apparently assume that Neil did play the character.
It's a lot cheaper not to use the main actor, just use a stunt guy for someone who's completely covered up in a costume.
Right. I think they did a good job too. It was Peter Cowper, but it's weird because he did a good job playing the miner. But I don't see. I looked him up. I don't see where he did anything else after this.
Oh,
to say he's billed as like stunt. I think stunt man and as as the miner. I think he may have even played. It says he played Harry Warden, so I assume he played him in human form too, where we didn't have the mask on, but.
Where he's eating someone's limb and just gnawing down and going crazy. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great image to keep in there from the one image they show of Harry Warden without the mask on. Which brings me to another good thing. The freaking miner's outfit, mask, the whole 9 yards is an amazing getup for a slasher character.
Yeah.
I mean,
right. And he said it was authentic too. He said the only difference in the miner's costume is they typically would tuck their shirts in, but he thought it looked better with his shirt tucked in, so that makes sense. But he said it was authentic miner costume. It looks pretty creepy.
Definitely was creepy because I hate to say this. Even when I saw the remake, I don't ever think that I've ever seen that type of get up before. I wouldn't have suspected that to be like a miner's get up, but they do explain in this movie that they have to wear all that because of all the methane gas and stuff down there. And then there's areas of the mine where they don't have to wear it; they can take off their mask.
Right, right.
And
I'm not sure how they determine that, but I'm sure there's some way they do it.
There's gauges everywhere. Every corner has gauges where methane is high. I don't know either.
But that's brought up a point I'm blanking on it. Let's see. I don't know. Say something else. I'll think of it in a minute.
Okay.
I'll throw this out here. I got to know.
Okay.
So you notice how they got Moosehead beer in the movie a lot. I don't know if you notice it. Once you notice it, you cannot see it.
There's a lot of things like that in this movie. Mostly because I think it's you hit it. It's shot in an authentic town. So if you go back and you think about that, it's like that's just what they had in this town back in '81.
But there's a reason for it. Apparently, it was when Moosehead beer. Apparently, back then they're saying at the end of the day, they're all the crew and the grips and everybody expected it to be handed a case of beer to drink after they wrapped. So so they got Moosehead to sponsor it. And they said, if you can give us the beer for wrap and and whatever for props or whatever, we'll display your beer and it even got signage for it. If you look in the bar, there's a Moosehead bar. It's all over the place. Even like in the laundromat, there's a case of Moosehead beer sitting in the laundromat.
There's cases of beer everywhere, and people are carrying around cases of beer, and you're like, why is he carrying it around the 6-pack when it's just for him and his girl? I know. Yes, I noticed that too. I was like, they're gonna drink 3 beers apiece while they're making out. Jesus Christ. I noticed that a lot too, and especially in the last act. I was like, Jesus, there's a lot of this Moosehead beer in these scenes here.
He said there's one time where they're drinking something else. I think it's maybe like a Schlitz or something. It's like just one time.
It got in there by accident. They ran out of Moosehead beer.
Yeah.
Just getting back to our little parallel with Friday 13th and the soothsayer character that we mentioned earlier, the guy who supposedly was there when the original massacre happens, and now he owns the bar that everyone goes to, and he's trying to talk to these kids about not going into the mine and not having a party and stuff. And of course, what's the character's name in Friday 13th? Oh my God,
he's a Ralph in that movie.
Ralph. I was drawing a blank. I should not be drawing a blank on that freaking name.
I actually played him in that fan film
that we did. Yes.
Yeah.
And in the lake. Audience members, Dave Watkins played the character of Ralph, which is the character for Friday 13th in our fan film called Man in the Lake. Check it out on YouTube and other fine social media sites.
Do note that I'm still not that old as that guy was at the time, but I was younger, but we played it differently, more crazy, It's like got hit in the head or something, like kicked by a mule or something like that.
Right. You can't not see the parallels between the bar guy and Ralph in this movie. And so you're kind of wondering if that's something that the filmmakers borrowed specifically to have that one character who tells all the other characters not to do what obviously they're going to do, and it's their doom.
But it's hilarious though in this one, because the Ralph character would just go around and be like, you're doomed, blah blah blah, don't do it, don't go there. This guy was like, he was just like, well, you're not going to do it. Well, screw you, I'm going to go. And he goes over there and tries to pull a prank on him. So I mean, And he sets up a miner costume with an axe, and then so he's trying to pull a prank on him. He wasn't just like, I don't know. I don't think he actually really wanted to warn him. I think he was just kind of being like a dick,
So the thing is, it's funny for me because at first I don't remember that scene at all, having watched it the original time. So when I was watching it this time, I was like, "Holy shit! Did he do this? Was this something new for this unrated cut? I don't remember this being there." Probably because for me it was so out of the character of a guy who you never see outside of the bar is warning everybody against this, and then he's going to the mine to set up a prank to
Yeah.
get to what exactly? Just to scare them?
Yeah.
Well,
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's funny because he's so old too, and it's like, it's like, I guess he's just, I don't know. I mean, I think he's just like, they kind of tell him off a few times in the bar, and
yes.
so he's kind of like, I guess they probably embarrassed him, so he figures he's gonna try to embarrass him back.
Oh Jesus! It's his
Yeah,
bar. Kick him
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Uh, that's probably with the addition of the opening scene, probably the only two scenes that really throw me off a little bit. Uh,
It was a
I,
cool kill though when he gets killed because he takes
oh
the
yeah,
axe and it goes through his head and his eye like pops out, which you don't see that in the original cut in the uncut one. What was interesting is listening to the director's commentary. Like the director, he did the same thing that he did to the cast. He never watched the uncut version that Shout Factory did put together until he was doing the director's commentary, so he could react to
oh my
it.
God, really?
Which was great though because he was very pleased with it for the most part, and he was just it, yeah, he was almost every time. There was like one part near the end where they really cut the scenes. So you remember near the end when they're all go down in the tunnel and there's like the two characters that go off and they start making out.
Yeah.
So apparently there's a sex scene there, and while they're having sex, which in all our versions of it, they go to start to make out, and then they find them later dead. But
Yeah.
basically they were having sex, and then he comes in and kills them while they were having sex, and it was very gruesome apparently. And they the censors just weren't having it, and apparently it was a big since they shot it on film. It was like what would happen is they brought the movie to the censors and they said, yeah, it's a Canadian movie, so they're not going to give them any slack. And they're like, yeah, just tell these Canadians they can take their movie back home or something like that. So one of the guys said that but so he's like, what do we need to do? And they're like, well, you need to cut out like 20 seconds here, 10 frames here, and then they would do that, and then when they would go back, and then they would give them more notes, and it kept going on. And so while that was happening, they were losing some stuff. Some of the stuff they were able to get back, but he said that scene specifically, they couldn't get it back because they kept making them trim it because they would be like, take 20 more seconds out, 10 more frames, and to the point it was just like take it all out. So, but I guess it was such a, the way the negative was, they couldn't recover it.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, because you're right in that the unrated cut feels much smoother, but it seems odd that is the only death that we don't see. It's just they have sex, and then we don't hear from them again until the one bigger guy finds them dead, and then
and it kind of makes me think. You remember in Black Christmas, there's a character near the end that you don't see get killed. I almost feel like that probably happened with that too, even though it wasn't said, but I bet you that something like that happened because it's weird that you see characters get killed and then just one of them you don't see get killed. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah, but I will have to say that the set pieces for the kills in this film are amazing. When Sylvia, after John leaves and Sylvia's left alone in that one room where all the drops down, I really enjoyed that whole sequence, the way it was filmed and it was executed. I thought it was really impressive. And I thought when the miner actually ends up killing her, I thought was really impressive. It's one of my kills in the movie I really, really enjoyed.
Sure. And that's probably the best kill in the movie, really. Because he picks her up and he slams her head into that shower. But apparently the director, he went into that location, which is like the shower area, and the way the shower, he says that was the way it really looked. And the way the showers, they're just like a looks like a spear or something. That's why he added the shower scene at the beginning of it to establish the location. When all the guys are in the shower, taking a shower after they come out of the mines. But then he saw that location. He saw the miners' jackets hanging up all crazy like they are in the scene when they all starting to fall down. And he's like, "We got to shoot a scene in here." And so that's how that first started. That's how that came about.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I mean, geez, that was and point of fact, it's been a while since I've seen this film. Like I said, I saw this right before the remake came out. When I rewatch it now, I was so impressed with the way that was executed. I was like, "Holy shit, this is impressive!" Even by today's standards, you don't see minor characters get killed in such an elaborate way. Usually, these minor characters, and you don't really get to know John or Sylvia all that fucking much in this movie.
No,
They're
no.
usually quick deaths, and that's
Yeah.
it.
You see them on second viewings. You do see them more in the groups because they're there, but they don't have like scenes. They have like one liners or something. Or they're seen, but they're not. You don't recognize. I think one problem is the guy. What's the guy's name? What's the character? The guy.
John. Or
What?
the bigger guy? Which one are you
No,
talking
no,
about?
the guy who's in there with the girl.
It's John and Sylvia.
Yeah. So he's got red hair.
He's
Which is
noticeable with the red
yeah,
hair.
very noticeable. But the problem is, with the exception of from there until the last time you see him, from there into the rest of the movie, he's wearing a hat. So you don't notice him. But if he didn't have that hat on, you think he would be more noticeable. But he's definitely in a lot of other scenes. But it's like
Yeah.
that red hair is like, where did this guy come from? It's like,
Well, I believe most of the male characters, and they focus on the male characters a lot more than the female characters. The male characters are in that big shower scene at the very beginning, when they're all gathering around, taking the shower after work,
right.
and all jump in their cars to go
Yeah.
drinking and having a good time. And then I think the only other time where they show them as groups is when I get where's that one scene
Well, they're
where
well, they're in the bar a lot. There's like two or three bar. I think there's two bar scenes. And when they're in the bar, he's in the bar with them when they're sitting around the table and stuff.
really
But you have to almost. It was almost like I think like I say, if he didn't have the hat on,
I
I
probably
think
would
you
have
would
noticed.
recognize him. Yeah, but I mean, he's not. I mean, he's really not in it that much. But he does a cool job. And then you kind of expect him to get killed too, though, because you're used to like having in Friday the 13th, like, or any of the other ones, like, the girl gets killed, the guy comes in there, what's going on? He gets killed too, but he doesn't. He goes back and tells everybody she's dead. Then almost
Yeah,
everybody escapes except for like six people.
yeah, he stares at his girl up on the shower head for a long time before I'm thinking that he's gonna get killed. Where's Harry at?
Yeah.
Where's the miner to kill him? But it never happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this is a perfect opportunity to kill this guy. Where you at?
They don't want to ruin the perfect kill like when Sylvia gets killed. I think that one and when the bigger guy, I can't remember the bigger guy's name.
Yeah.
It's the whole nail through the head.
Hollis is the guy.
Hollis.
Yeah, yeah.
When Hollis gets killed with a nail through the freaking head the first
Yeah.
time he gets shot, it's like, dude, I think I can't see, but there's something wrong. And he gets shot three times, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
still wandering around. I mean, I'm
That's
like,
bad too. I mean, that character is very likable, and it's
yeah.
hard to see that happen to him. But the other guy, also the guy getting his head shoved into the boiling water, the hot dog water, and then later on they fish the heart out of the water. They're gonna. I mean, almost would have been better if they'd eaten the damn hot dog and then noticed it.
Oh, that's disturbingly disgusting. But yes, that probably would have been a little bit more effective. Although that big pot of boiling water and all those hot dogs in there was pretty disgusting. Just the way. Oh, we're just gonna go in here. I guess that boiling pot is just there all night long with these hot dogs shriveled up in that damn thing, and they're just grabbing them as they eat them. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like maybe that's what they did. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's an easy way to do it. You got the hot dogs ready.
Shit. But that lends to the feel of this small town with these I guess it's a miner's town. The one great thing about the movie, and the Prowler does this too, is it represents this small town, these smaller type of mentality people. You get them all together, and it may feel out of place because it's a miner's town, and most of us don't have, like background with understanding a miner's town. But this film does a really good job with establishing the basics of what a miner town looks like, feels like, and ultimately kills like.
Right. And then the director was he was talking about how like you said at the beginning, when they go and take the shower and then they all run out and they're just like wide open, gonna go like horseplay and go drink and stuff. He said that was kind of how they did that because they were down in the mine for so long. When they came out, it was just like, had to go blow off some steam, So he said that was kind of like, but he said he did that. He went and talked to some people in the town and just kind of found out those little details and added them into the movie. Like there's a scene, maybe about like a quarter way into it, where the guys are hanging out in this like abandoned, car like where these abandoned cars are, and
that's what I was trying to play. Yeah. What is that spot?
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, well, it's like a car graveyard. It's almost like cars that are don't not work anymore. They just dump them. But he says that was what they would do. They would go there, hang out, and sit in the old cars that don't work anymore and drink. But, I mean, yeah. So he said that was pretty. He said they actually added that in. They had the scene in there in the movie, but he had the writer rewrite it to work around that location when they were shooting it.
Well, it's a good scene because that's another great scene, like the shower scene where you get to see a lot of the characters, and you get to know a little bit more of them before some of them get killed. Not all of them, but some of them get killed. Yeah. It's those scenes in particular with this movie are very good at establishing the type of people who live and work in a miner's town, and I think that's what was missing from the remake. Because one, even as much as I enjoy watching the remake, it never really felt like this is what a real miner's town would be like. This film, this feels like this is a slice of life from that era.
The mine scenes are a lot better in the original too, because they're shooting in a real mine and it's pretty obvious. Apparently, like they had to like shoot it differently because when they were going to go shoot down the mine, they realized they couldn't use a bulb that was hotter than, like, I think it's 25 watt. And at the time there's no, they didn't have the LED technology like they have now. But so they had to get a faster film camera. So they ended up, like, the budget was higher because of that.
Oh, I can see that. That would be something like what, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but what Stanley Kubrick had to do when he was shooting Barry Lyndon, where most of all that was lit with actual flames, and you had to get really fast film speed and cameras in order to accomplish what he wanted with that movie, because you can't just bring all the artificial light in to get the same look that he wanted.
Right. I just saw that for the first time probably about maybe less than a year ago. It was just a good movie though. I liked it.
Stanley Kubrick, I tell you, always innovative.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I mean, even the director in his interview said, he's like, we may have even shot on the same cameras as that movie. I don't know for sure. He's like, but it might have been the same cameras, because it happened around the same time, It may have been though, because they probably weren't that many cameras like that at the time.
I don't think there was. I think that was why when I saw Barry Lyndon, one of the reasons why I saw it, we talked about it in film school about how it was shot in the time in which it was shot. Obviously I couldn't watch the whole damn movie in film class because it's long as shit. But I had to watch it outside on my own.
Right. Yeah.
So, and people don't have to deal with that anymore.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So, talking about My Bloody Valentine, and thankfully, it's getting that time of the month with the whole Valentine celebration. I'm hoping everyone will enjoy this commentary on that. Can you tell me or leave the audience with any type of your impressions or last bit of impressions for them, so that if they have not seen this film, they will be able to enjoy it as much as we have, and or learn to appreciate the movie even more if they have already seen it once?
So I would suggest buying the 4K version, or even just the Blu-ray from Scream Factory specifically, with the unrated version. Either one, or but it looks really good. It's remastered, and it's got the uncut scenes in it. So that's the only way I would suggest watching it, unless you want to watch the uncut version first and then watch the regular version first and then watch the uncut so you can appreciate how much better the uncut one is.
So you know what? I'm going to second that. I will agree with Dave in that you should definitely watch the unrated version of this film. I have a greater appreciation of the movie now than I did when I first saw it. That being said, I also would suggest this one over the remake, or at least if you've seen both of them, rewatch this one if you need a greater appreciation of the two movies themselves. But if you have never seen either one of the My Bloody Valentine movies, watch this one first. You'll be able to have a greater appreciation for this film if you see this one before you watch the remake. The remake is very fun. It is exciting. It has some great moments in it. And if you get the chance to watch it in 3D, so much the better. With this film, watch the unrated cut because you get a greater appreciation of what the filmmakers were going for in 1981 when they made the film. Also, you get a slice of life from the miners' perspective because they do a really good job with it in this film. And, you know, it's not every day that we get to see or get a peek into miners' life, except for probably the coal miner's daughter, maybe. But horror fans out there can appreciate My Bloody Valentines. I hope that everyone here has had a pleasant Valentine's Day experience, whether you're watching this film, holidays, Valentine, any of the other multitude of Valentine's Day themed movies out there. I want you to enjoy this month and this holiday because it is part and parcel of the horror genre and us fans. I want to thank Dave Watkins for joining me on this episode of Conversations on Horror. We are going to do it and keep bringing you more crazy commentaries about movies in the future. So please check us out on social media and other social platforms. Remember, check out our previous episodes because I'm sure we've talked about some of the great movies that you love or maybe don't love. And we will keep bringing these episodes to you week after week. So we look forward to entertaining you for months and years to come. Thank you so much for joining us and have a good evening. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.